John Haynes. It's H-A-I-N-E-S. I'm the commander of the Criminal Investigations Division.
Stand by, please.
Mm-hmm.
What seconds count?
No rush.
All right, sir. Thank you. I'm good.
Okay.
Anyone want to start with any questions about anything specific?
Do you have any updates to, I mean, there were so many, but any updates to any particular shootings overnight, and any reason to believe any of these are connected?
At this time, we have no reason to believe, or we have nothing to show us that any of the shootings are connected. We are looking into all of them to see. We'll be able to determine probably pretty quickly, forensically, whether or not they are, and we hope to have an answer to those questions shortly, because that's going to help us a lot investigatively, looking into these cases, whether or not they're connected.
Can you describe logistically, this that happens, the first one and then the second one, so just shots fired, people rolling up, kind of weapons, what you found?
So for the first one, I'm going to assume we're talking about Bernie Place?
Yes, please.
So on Bernie Place yesterday, we had, what happened was two vehicles approached the apartment building there. There's a parking lot. They stopped at the entrance to the parking lot, and several individuals from within those two vehicles used assault rifles shooting into the parking lot area. It just so happens that there was a person who was parking their vehicle, a female, who was parking her vehicle at the time. She was struck by gunfire. And there was another individual who was out there but was not struck by gunfire. It does not, we're pretty confident that she was not the target of that shooting, that it was really just, we're not sure who they were targeting or if they were targeting anyone specifically. We did, like I said, recovered, we can see clearly in the evidence we recovered, which is video evidence, that assault rifles were used, and we can confirm that with the cartridge casings that were recovered at the scene.
So were they, well, we were just chatting, were they set to automatic? I mean,
Now
just describe the weaponry, if you would, please.
Without getting too specific in them, one would be an AK-style assault rifle, and the other one looked like an M4 style. Those types of weapons.
You said several. Can you say how many were firing, and if you recovered any of those guns?
We have not recovered any of the guns, and we have at least two shooters.
And then the second?
The second one which occurred on 4300 block of 4th Street. There we had a group of individuals that were out in the parking lot. They were, it was at night. They were hanging out. There was a single vehicle entered the parking lot and again opened fire on the group of individuals that was there. It does not appear that they were specifically targeting any one person, but it looks like the whole group of individuals that were out there. That's where we had two people who were killed. One additional person was struck by gunfire who had critical injuries, but we do believe is going to survive her injuries. And the same thing on that scene, we did recover cartridges that is consistent, again, with an assault-type rifle.
That second death in that location is sounding new to me. Can you recount, please, the casualties at each event and what their conditions are and whether they're dead?
Yeah, on Bernie, there is one victim. She had multiple gunshot wounds. She should survive. She will survive her wounds. On the 4300 block of 4th Street, we have two decedents and one additional victim who was struck there. And then we had just almost around the corner there in the 4300 block of Livingston Road, a short time later, we had another individual who was killed in the stairwell of a apartment building. At this time, that is a John Doe. We have not identified that person yet.
3 dead?
Correct.
Ah.
3 dead and 3 incidents, but 2 wounded. That's what I have.
Yes.
Okay.
The third unidentified person, is that another assault weapon? Do you know about that?
They were pistol cartridge casings were on the scene there.
This weaponry, I mean, again, we were just chatting. This is what you're seeing, right? I mean, 200-some shots fired and 2 incidents last night. Is that still accurate? Or
It's about the on the Bernie scene and on the scene on 4th Street. And we haven't got final counts from DFS, who collects the evidence for us. We know we're at over 90 at each scene.
What do you make of that?
It's not highly unusual, unfortunately. I wish it was, but it's not something that we don't see.
What's your message for the public, communities?
The obvious one is, if you know anything at all, you saw anything, You might have seen something, heard something, please let us know. You can rename completely anonymous. We do offer in the homicide cases up to a $25,000 reward for cases that lead to an arrest and conviction for suspects in those cases. We have, to our victims' families, we're doing everything we can. We're sorry for your loss. We really are trying to make a difference out there, and we'll try everything we can to do that. For the anonymous tips, you can call 202-727-9099, or from any cell phone, you can text to 50411 the information, and again, that's completely anonymous.
So the burning place, the woman, innocent victim, hit. Could there have been someone that they were aiming at there, or was that just random, let's shoot our guns thing?
So the way, without, again, not getting into too much details, the way they approached down the street in the two vehicles, they would have, unless there was someone who was giving them information, they would have no way of knowing who was or was not in the parking lot where they were shooting into.
Current, go ahead, Darcy.
Okay. On the 4th Street one, where you had the 2 killed, any reason to believe, we were told at least one of the individuals was an innocent bystander. Is this another case where you believe they were innocent bystanders as well, or can you say that?
The individuals who shot on 4th Street were targeting that group, but we can't say for sure because obviously we don't have our suspects yet, or we don't know if they were specifically targeting somebody within the group as a whole, or if, you know, and unfortunately what we see a lot of times here in the city is there, and we don't know that this is the motivation in this case, so I want to be clear on that rival groups, crews, neighborhoods will sometimes just target other neighborhoods, and they indiscriminately shoot into an area that they're having feuds with. And they really don't tend to, in many cases, specifically look to target John Haynes, whoever just happens to be out there at the time. And 4th Street could be the motive, that they were just simply going to shoot up the block.
And that's where I was going. With current intelligence, are there crews active, or groups, gangs, however we want to characterize the people? Do we know whether they're active in that environment and whether there may be a beef ongoing?
So this area, the Washington Highlands, has been a challenge for D.C. police in the District of Columbia for a long time. It's one of this particular PSA is part of our current project for the Highlands, the homicide prevention program that we're working on, not just here at MPD, with partners across the city, working with the one's office and violence interrupters, are heavily focused specifically in these areas. And getting to your question, there's a long-standing history of this neighborhood in groups that operate or live in this neighborhood who have long-standing feuds with other neighborhoods. Again, we do not know, or I cannot say for sure that that's the motivation for this shooting, but that is something that we are looking into.
Are you still of the mind that a lot of these high-powered guns are coming in from Virginia? Where are they getting them? Where's all this ammo and assault weapons?
So if we look at the history of the guns that we have recovered, a majority of the illegal firearms here in the district do come from the state of Virginia. Some of the recently, within the last couple of years, we've definitely seen the swing of the ghost guns, and we kind of use that to cover a variety of things. Specifically, the personally manufactured firearms is what the technical term is for it. But in most cases, they're pistols. They tend to look like a Glock-type pistol, but the kind that you can purchase, assemble, and put together yourself. We've seen a large increase of those in the street, and many of those that we're seeing that are actually being converted to automatic weapons in the pistol variety. Additionally, the building of the AR-style personally manufactured firearms, we are also seeing those. I wouldn't say an increase in those, but we do see those, and we are seeing assault rifles on a lot of our scenes.
Well, you don't think the kind of bullets we saw flying in those 2 incidents, up to 100 in 2 scenes, you don't think that's a ghost gun, do you?
I have no way of knowing at this time.
But I mean, can people manufacture these things at home, build their own, that have this kind of firepower is my question?
Yeah, you can, yes. You can buy the parts legally in other states and assemble them in your home.
Chuck, you make sure I have my facts straight. I've
Mhm.
got 2 vehicles at Bernie Street approach and 2 shooters. Is that accurate?
It's at least 2 shooters.
At least?
Yes.
It's 2 separate guns, both appear to have been assault type weapons.
Yes, we know for certain there were 2 assault rifles
Okay.
in
And
that
then
case.
the second incident, I'm unclear how many shooters you have, big group of people being shot at. And I just didn't get it.
We're still investigating that. We're not, there's at least 1 shooter. We believe there's probably, well, we're certain there's more. We're trying to determine how many.
And you mentioned video in the burning incident. Do you have potential video to review
We do.
in the second incident?
And in the burning incident, we did recover both vehicles that were used. They were driven to a location, doused in gasoline, and set on fire.
Tell us about that, please.
I'm sorry, place.
Just kind of stepped
Come on,
on
man,
me.
you've been
So,
in the lead.
we recovered them in the rear of the 3100 block of Bruce Place, Southeast, yesterday afternoon.
Were they stolen vehicles?
Yes.
And the third one is a guy in the stairwell with handgun cases near him.
Yes. And that seemed to be a targeted attack.
Thank
Are
you.
you gonna release any photos or video from any incident to help with the investigation at all?
Originally, for the 2 vehicles on Bernie, we were, but since we recovered the vehicles, we do have those. We don't have any images at this time.
There's no people visible.
Actually, there was a comment I could see if I could solicit from you.
Mhm.
Because of the way the shootings unfolded, the way the cars were disposed of and all of that, I mean, it's clear this wasn't just some sort of crime of passion. Is that accurate? How would you characterize it? Organized, what's a good word for us to
I think it was a targeted attack, but not to a targeted individual. That's kind of the way I would categorize it.
I'm trying to get at it to indicate that, this was planned.
Yes, it appears. I mean, the vehicles that were used were stolen vehicles, which we often see used in these type crimes, and they were used and then disposed of fairly quickly. They made attempts to destroy physical evidence that might have been there, and where we recovered the vehicles also would lend us to believe that it's probably a ongoing beef between groups of people. But again, we don't know the actual motivation for the shooting.
Importantly, they didn't throw the guns down on the ground and light them up first.
No, they did
Guns are
not.
still out there,
Yes,
right?
the guns are still out there.
What's that tell you about the situation?
They'll probably be used again. I'd be willing to bet that they will almost certainly. And these individuals have no care for anybody's safety. Whether it's one thing when you're targeting a specific person, for whatever your motivation is for that, maybe we can kind of understand, okay, you're looking, but when you're indiscriminately using assault rifles and shooting hundreds of rounds, not in one incident, but in multiple incidents at whoever's out there. It could be your child, your mother, your brother, your grandmother, who just be sitting in your home watching TV and a stray round come through the window and end your life. That's why we are pleading to the public, please, 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 if you know anybody who might know something, if you know something, if you know individuals who are in possession of illegal firearms, especially assault rifles, please, please let us know. Let us try to help make a difference and make the city safer.
John, in a different jurisdiction, in a different part of the country, somebody shooting up a place like this, people would use the word terrorism. Because would the D.C. police use a word like that in incidents like that? I mean, is this terrorism?
It's street violence is the way it's what Citizens of Ward 7 and 8 have been dealing with. It's not just yesterday, it's not just today, have been dealing with this for decades. And it's, although violent crime is down, and we are seeing less ADWs, that's how we categorize our shootings.
Assault with deadly weapons.
Yes. We are seeing a slight decrease in that and trending in that direction. Now, homicides are up this year from where they were last year. We're struggling with the homicide number and trying to do that. And I know we have other partners in the city that are working really hard with us to try to address those issues. It's a struggle. But Again, it's street violence. It's something that we've been dealing with here in the city, and many metropolitan cities have been dealing with for a long time.
Well, John, forgive me, an assault with a deadly weapon with a handgun is limited range, et cetera. You're talking about much more efficient assaults with assault rifles that are much more deadly. So your homicides are up while your ADWs are leveled to down. Is that a crazy analysis by me?
No.
Sorry, I thought you were.
No.
Yes.
Going back to the stolen cars, can you say when they were taken and like where, and were they carjacked or just off the street or?
And I'm trying to remember the second one, but one of them was carjacked recently within the last couple of days. It was taken in a carjacking up in the northwest portion of the city.
Last question.
But you don't remember the other one?
Not offhand, no.
Last question. Yes.
Is there anything relevant to the investigation in regards to evidence that you have not yet discussed that you can responsibly share? Or how would you characterize the quality of the video you're examining?
So I have not personally seen a video from 4th Street. From past cases, I know that it's good quality. The video from Bernie Place is very high quality video. It has actually helped progress the investigation much more quickly than most shootings of those types. But again, it gave us what we needed to identify the cars. It's just unfortunately that the car, we did find the cars a short time later.
I don't believe you. Can we take a look?
Without revealing the source of the video,
Mhm.
can you characterize, would it be, public housing mounted video, or these store videos, or ring cameras? How do we characterize the video?
It was the video was part of the, I don't want to say that. It was private video owned by the people by a corporation.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Were there any questions on the kidnapping?
Sure.
No?
Did you find them yet?
No, we did not find him yet.
Where do you think he, I mean?
I'm sure he's probably.
Was it the victim wasn't able to help lead you to?
Well, as I stated yesterday, he had been residing with her it hadn't been very long, so he had been residing with her. So now we're not sure. As far as we know, he does not have an actual residence.
You just let her go, or she get away, or what happened?
Yes.
On one of those three.
It's not entirely clear, but at some point she got away from him and then was able to make it back to her family, and we found her safe yesterday evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.